Okay, it didn't do the beeping, but it says it's sharing, so let's hope that it is recording how it should. Technology is just so wonderful for me today. Yeah. So thank you for being flexible and going with me. Because the pen is still not working on the smart board, we are going to do the document camera. I will check this when it's done to make sure that the volume is working. If it's not, I will end up posting last year's video. But I'm going to walk us through this in class. Po15 is I can compare and order fractions. There's not a lot of notes on this one, so I didn't copy off notes for my friends who need that. So, we have been working with those fractions a lot. The last few objectives have focused on working with fractions in various ways. Let's not be doing silly things with our feet. Let's make sure that we are just focused and learning. Finding equivalent fractions, simplifying them, comparing a fraction to 0, a half, or 1. Okay, so we're still going to continue to work with those fractions. This objective is going to practice using those methods that we just learned, and we're using them to compare the values of our fractions. So let's do a quick review of our symbols. Remember, when we have these comparing symbols, we're comparing what's on the left to what's on the right. So if we have on the left side, it's pointing to it, it is not the open mouth. What is that symbol? Birthday boy Kellen. Less than. And when we have that big open mouth wanting to gobble up that number on the left, that is what, Adeline? Greater than. Because we always want to eat up the bigger number. We always read it from left to right, just like we read our words, left to right. So we know if it's pointing to it, that means it's less than. If it wants to gobble it up, it means it's greater than. So now we're going to compare the fractions using less than, greater than, or equal to. Show how you can use equivalent fractions to do this. So in this top section, we're going to do equivalent fractions. What do you think that means? James?
Multiply both the fractions with the same number.
That is a really good guess. When we do equivalent fractions, we're multiplying the numerator and denominator by that same scale factor. What do you think would make it easiest for us to compare two different fractions? What would those fractions need to have on the bottom, Sarah? They need the same denominator. If I look at 1/3 and 1/4, they're very different types of measurements, right? But if I changed it using that equivalent fractions to get both of their denominators to be 12, then I can say, oh, this numerator is smaller or bigger than this numerator. So I know if it's less than or equal to. So what do you think would be a good denominator that both that 3 and 4 would share? Maddie? Yeah, we can multiply them by each other. So that 1/3 I'm going to multiply by that scale factor of 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Oh, sorry. I'm just all throwing because technology. I'm just not used to teaching from the document camera. Let's try that again. We're not multiplying it by itself. We're multiplying it by the other denominator. So not by 3s. The 3 we're going to multiply by those 4s. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. So then our 4, that 1/4, we're multiplying by the 3s. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Now it's easy to compare. I can say, oh, 4/12 to 3/12. Is that 4/12 less than, equal to, or greater than 3/12? Adeline? 4/12 is less than 3/12? Yeah, because 4, that numerator of 4 is bigger than the numerator of 3. So I'm going to put the greater than symbol. We can only compare those numerators if the denominators are the same. Bennett? How is 3 bigger than 4?
Sorry, I thought we were talking about
Okay. So you always look at those final fractions. They both have that denominator of 12. We did that scale factor, so whatever we multiplied the denominator by, we multiplied our numerator by. When the denominators are the same, we can compare the numerators. We can't compare 1 to 1. We wouldn't say that that's equal because the denominators are different. So what should I do to 2/5 and 3/7? Kylie? Find the common denominator, right? What's the easiest way to do that Maddie found? You can multiply them by each other. Sometimes we know there might be a smaller one that we could use. Sometimes it's multiplying by each other. So that 2/5, I'm going to multiply by the other denominator. So I'm multiplying by the scale factor of 7. So 2 times 7 is 14. 5 times 7 is 35. Then 3/7 I'm going to multiply by that scale factor of 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 7 times 5 is 35.
Prepare for a lockdown. Royals at peak. Prepare for a lockdown. This is a soft lockdown drill.
So
Royals at peak.
when it's the soft lockdown, we can keep working in class. We're just going to be working, now she said this is a drill, right? So we are just going to be working quietly in class. I'm going to make sure that the door is locked. That my blinds are closed. But we can keep on learning, okay? So this would be if there's something happening in the neighborhood where, maybe somebody robbed a store and the police are searching for them. And so this happened at my old school. Down the road, somebody robbed the convenience store and the police were in the neighborhood. So we just went into a soft lockdown where we just very quietly went about our business. So we're going to keep learning, okay? That's all that it means. And this is just a drill, like we did the tornado drill the other week. This is a what would we do just in case. So we're going to keep going. I'm still recording, so we'll talk about lockdowns later. We're going to keep working on the math. So if we have our new equivalent fractions, our 14/35 and 15/35, is the 14 less than, equal to, or greater than the 15? Natalie? Less than. So we're going to put the less than symbol. Now the middle one, we see the denominators are 3 and 18. Do I have to multiply them together? Why not, Natalie? Yeah, I could multiply by 6 over here because 3 times 6 gets me that 18 denominator. So I could keep this fraction the same and then just multiply the other fraction to get it to that 18 for a denominator. Could I multiply the 3 and 18 together and get new fractions for both of them? Sure. I like to do less work. So if I only have to change one fraction, I go with that option, but that's just me. You might say, you know what, it's easier for me just to always multiply those two denominators together. Whatever I multiply the denominator by, I multiply the numerator by, that's fine. You're going to finish this row on your own. Let's look at our middle row. The middle row, now we're still comparing, but we're going to use simplifying the fractions. So we're going to look at each of our fractions and see how we simplify them. So we have 12/18 and 9/27. What can I simplify 12/18 to? James? I could divide out a 3. If I divided out that 3, I would have 4/6. Is that what you meant, James? Dividing out the 3? Okay. What could I divide that? Can I simplify 4/6 anymore? James?
Yeah, because 2, 4, and 6 are even numbers, so you can divide it by 2.
Yeah, both 4 and 6 are even numbers, so I can divide it by a 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2.
All clear.
6
drill is
divided
over.
by
Thank
2.
you. All clear. Drill is over.
6 divided by 2 is that 3. Let's look at 9/27. What can I divide out of 9/27? What can I divide out of 9 that I can also divide out of the 27? How can I simplify that? Hudson?
Divide 3 out of it.
Yeah, I can divide a 3 out of both of them. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 27 divided by 3 is 9. Can I go any simpler? Kylie? I can divide another 3 out. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Look at that. I can simplify them down to the same denominator. Now, just like up top, because I have that same denominator, now I can compare them. 2/3 to 1/3. Is 2/3 greater than, less than, or equal to 1/3? Kellen? Greater than, because 2 is bigger than 1. I could have done those equivalent fractions, but 18 and 27 are such big numbers. I don't want to have to multiply 18 by 27 and multiply the 12 by 27. That's just way too big of numbers. When you're given big numbers in your fractions, see if you can simplify it down and make it numbers that are easier to work with. The rest of this row, you are going to simplify down as low as you can go, making sure that you have same denominators. Once you get them down to the same denominator, you can compare those numerators. But remember, the key thing is we need same denominator. On the bottom, this time we're relating them to 0, half, or 1, what we did in yesterday's objective. So I can look at 18/19 and 5/24. 18/19 is closest to what? 0, half, or 1? Lila? 1, because 1 whole would be 19/19. So I'm going to put a 1 next to it. 5/24 is closest to what? 0, half, or 1? 5/24. Liam? A half would be 12/24. So it's actually closer to that 0. Either way though, what's bigger? 1 or 0? 1 or a half? That 1 is bigger. So sometimes that's all we have to do is comparing them. If we looked up at the top, 1/3 and 1/4, they're both closer to 0. So we couldn't use that method for that. But for these ones, because they're so different, this one's closer to 1 whole, this one is closer to that 0. Obviously the one that's closer to 1 whole is going to be bigger. Let's look at our next one. 1/11. Closest to 0, half, or 1? Birthday boy Kellen. It's closer to 0. 19/50. What do you think, Lila? A half. So is 0 less than or greater than a half? James?
0 is
Less than. So when it says explain how you know, show how you can, that's putting in that work. Okay, I don't want us just to do mental math. I want us to write out what it is we're doing. So if we're comparing, don't just say, oh, that's closer to 0, that's closer to a half, so I know it's less than. Show me. Write out that 0 and the half or the 1, so I know what you were doing to get your answer. Okay? Any questions on these three methods? Let's look at what page 2 has us doing. Look at the directions. Use whichever method you choose and order the fractions from least to greatest. So this time we're not putting in the comparison less than, greater than, or equal to. We're going to rewrite our fractions with the smaller fraction and then the bigger fraction. And when we get down to that second row, we have 3 fractions to put in order. The smallest, the least, the middle, and then the biggest. So some of these fractions you'll look at and go, oh my, this one is closest to 1, this one is closer to 0. I can just use that method. Some of them you might say, ooh, these are really big numbers. I want to, like, look at that, 11/25 and 28/50. Ooh. When you get something like that, remember, is it less than a half or greater than a half? You can use that, looking at it, comparing it with that halfway point. Sometimes you'll have numbers like this one, 1/2, 12/16, 6/24. Simplify them down. I know that we've got a 2, a 16, and a 24th denominators. We can simplify those down. Okay. Sometimes you just need to find the common denominator. For this one, you could, this one, 5, 10, 20. It's got a 17 on top, so I can't simplify 17/20ths down. But 5 and 10 can both multiply up to 20. So I could do that common denominator equivalent fraction multiplying up so they have that same denominator. So it's your job to choose which method you're going to use. Are there any questions on how to do that? So it's the same math we did from the front, but this time instead of them telling us which method to do, you have to decide which method you're going to do. How are we feeling? Show me your thumbs. Okay, most of us are feeling pretty good about this. We have work time. If you have, some of us aren't quite sure. If you have questions, that's when you're going to come ask me. James?
Would we get the common denominators, like on that second
This
question
one?
on the third row? Yeah. And it's 5/5, and I multiply it by 4 equals 20/20.
Yep.
And so on and so on. Can I, instead of writing 3/10, can I write the common denominator for the question? Like,
So if this one I was multiplying by the 4s,
Yeah.
and I got 20/20.
yeah.
This one I would multiply by 2s, I would get 6/20. This one would stay the same. So then you are going to rewrite it using the original fractions. When you put them from least to greatest, you're going to write the original fractions. So I'm going to say, okay, that 6 is the smallest number, so that was my 3/10. Then next is 17, so that was 17/20. And the last one was 5/5. So notice how my final answer has those original fractions. So that final answer will have the original fractions put in order from least to greatest, the smallest number up to the biggest number. But always go back to your original numbers that you had, that you were given. Any other questions? All right. If you are watching this at home, I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. If you have any questions, make sure you check in with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.